And Ms. Brown, welcome to the Idea Center again.
Thank you very much for having me. I love doing this. So we're going to talk about pitching and how you can improve your pitches, really how you can tell your story. When you pitched to me last time, I was very impressed with the quality of your ideas, with your passion for them, and bluntly, with your bravery in undertaking public speaking. I mean, you probably know that some people fear speaking in front of a group more than death. Bravo to you all for that. What I do for a living is I'm a writer and an editor. I tell stories. And specifically, I help other people tell their stories better. So that's the value I hope to add for you. Because not all of you told your stories as well as you might have for the objective you had in mind. You had a lot of the right meat, but not necessarily the right focus. If I can leave you with one message today, the most important consideration in how you tell a story is who you're telling it to. So your work on avatars is absolutely on point. You have your objective. For pitches, it's to get them to invest money or time or expertise in you and your idea. But what do they want? What's in it for them? Why should they care? You need to know them. Then you need to use that knowledge to engage them. And then you need to use that engagement, use their attention to show them how you stand out from the crowd and can provide value to them. You actually know how to do this already. I know you do, because you don't talk to your parents the same way you talk to your teachers, the same way you talk to your friends. And you don't talk to your teachers the same way you talk to a younger sibling, for example. We all adjust how we speak to who we're speaking to. So I'd like you to draw on that knowledge that you already have in your bones and use it to your advantage in your business. You were kind enough to send your specific questions in advance, and I've reorganized my talk around them. You asked what's the most important ingredient of a successful pitch? And it's giving your audience what they need, not what you need, what they need. What I heard last time when I was here was a lot of stuff about how great your ideas were, and not quite enough about why I should part with my time or my money. I didn't always hear enough about what problem of mine you were solving. So if you can take that passion that you showed and channel it into a passion to solve my problems, not necessarily in a pitch the end user's problems, but that's good too, you'll have my attention. How does this make money for me? Or how does this help me help my clientele? For example, one of the students offered an excellent mental health solution. But always, what does the audience want? I'd like to hear more about how it would help practitioners who help those who are suffering, for example. So what are some how-tos on this that I'm talking about? Make sure your pitch is presented to the right audience. I doubt if at your phase this will come in, but always remember this later. Consider the size of your project when you go after investors. For most of you, you're going to need angel investors for a small startup. You're not going to go after large venture capital companies. Be sure to share something about yourself right at the start, because this will allow your audience to connect with you at a deeper level. Say something about you. You know, for example, now that I worked for the National Research Council, that I led a communications team, right? Remember what I told you last time, they're buying you, not just your idea. So they have to know you and be comfortable trusting you. Frame the challenge you're addressing very simply and present their solution to the challenge very simply. In other words, don't expect them to piece it together out of the first sentence of each of your sections. Get it together in one sentence at the beginning. Elevator pitch early on in the piece, I found, is the most helpful thing, especially if you're going to be listening to multiple pitches. They've got that one sentence and they can then contextualize everything else you say after. And then around the value statement, develop a story or an anecdote that illustrates your product or solution. As I mentioned last time, people connect with stories. They remember stories. Present your pitch itself as a story. It's a story about tomorrow. It is not about how this will change the world 10 years from now. And you may wish to mention that, but concentrate less on how this is the best thing since sliced bread than on its potential to solve a pain point for consumers or clients, and therefore be a success for the investor. Think what success looks like for your clients, for your business in the near term, in the medium term, and then paint that picture confidently. The more grounded the story is, and the brighter the picture, the better your chances of engaging the investor audience. You want it bright, but not pie in the sky. I'm not saying lose your passion. Absolutely the opposite. Channel your passion into a dynamic presentation. Nobody enjoys a stiff, monotone speaker. If you're not a gifted speaker yet, practice, practice, practice until you become one. People do not like to be bored, so engage them. You typically have maybe 30, maybe 60 seconds to get people's attention. So I've often found it helps to start with a challenge question, brings your audience into the discussion, even if at first you're doing all the speaking, as often happens in a pitch. It makes it seem more like a dialogue. You want them to feel like you're one of them. So did you know that? Or have you ever wondered what would happen if? Often helps you get started. Keep it simple. Avoid jargon as far as possible. Even very smart people, if you have a room full of really technical people who are going to understand jargon, people who understand that complicated vocabulary, they still appreciate being given the gist quickly in a few simple words. It saves them time, it saves them effort. When I'm scanning a long email, for example, I really appreciate bullet points, summarizing sentences. So help them get your point quickly. They're busy, so many of us are too busy, so help them. Always mention any successes you've had up to this point. I mean, some investors are big risk takers, but most human beings prefer jumping on a bandwagon, right? It helps helps make them comfortable that this isn't just pie in the sky. And when you're doing this, overcome any hesitation that comes from not wanting to boast, which we've been taught since childhood. This is the right time and place to share successes, and that is not boasting. Always be ready to talk about how you could scale up. Again, looking towards tomorrow, because that's where their return on investment lives. Tomorrow, next month, next year. Give clear figures and clear projections. Remember the difference that one little consonant makes. Investors aren't inventors, or they'd be on your side of the table. What they want is to make money. So your social entrepreneurship is admirable. It gets 3 cheers from me. That's the world I live in. Maybe they are less interested in the size of the return than in social finance, getting some sort of return, but helping the community with their investment. But remember, normally a pitch is about getting someone to part with money so they can get more money back, not be wowed at what you thought up. Be clear about your plan for the money, what you're going to use it to accomplish, over what time frame, and what greater impacts will then be possible. Not, please invest 10,000 in my company, but if you do, we are going to hire this many, do that. Over the next 3 months, we will create a plan and a budget, blah, blah, blah. Have a plan. And finally, it always helps to refer to your audience members by their name, which means, as always, doing your research. Know who's there, know as much as you can about them, preferably from other people who know them, not just from their company's website or social media presence. Which leads me to your second question. How do you get inside your audience's heads? You do your research, including networking, to know them. In the end, no matter how great your idea, no matter how smart you are, the thing that's going to propel you towards success most effectively, most quickly, is an ever expanding and supportive network that can open doors for you. So follow them on social media, individuals, companies alike, Twitter and LinkedIn more than Facebook, but any platform where you can find them. Try to know what they eat for breakfast and what they call their dog if you can, and keep good notes on this and update those notes frequently. A network is hard work. Go to the website and go again and again so you always know their latest news. Google them. They might be in the news for things they wouldn't want to put on their website, things you would only find in the media. Also, what others are saying about them might be there. And use your network. You don't have a network? Invest time and energy into creating a network. It's harder during COVID, but it's not impossible. As it comes to civic tech, I mean, you might see Zoom events from Connection Works or the university or Edge SJ where it might introduce you to people. I mean, you got a huge resource in your teacher who knows a lot of people. Tap into him and the people he knows. Get the people you already know to introduce you to people who might be interested in what you do. And maintain your network as well as you can. Seize any natural opportunity to stay in touch without hounding people. What to cut from a pitch is probably the most helpful thing for this weekend ahead of you. What can afford to be trimmed? I'll tell you what can afford to be trimmed. Anything that doesn't serve the main goal of engaging your specific listener and persuading them to do what you want. I talked to you last time about the cabinet minister in the elevator who holds the purse strings on your project. They don't want to know how cool your idea is. They want to know, will it cure cancer? Will it create jobs? What will it do? So don't give more than a sentence to how cool your solution or product is. As a potential investor, I'm more interested, for example, in whether anyone else might already have created something similar. Cool is often not unique. Uniqueness can be more important than cool. But if you are not unique, if you're adding a dimension to an existing set of solutions, they'll want to hear where you fit, that you know what's already out there. I mean, you don't have to inundate your audience with market research, but you have to show that you know your market, including who the competition is and who potential collaborators are. It depends on the audience and the stage you're at in the process, but don't flood people with numbers. Just have a few right numbers. Their eyes will glaze over. Just give people a few key stats. You don't have to footnote all your numbers. Like, according to think tank X and index Y, there will be 50% more such and such by next year. Maybe use a footnote once for cred, but if you're sharing numbers, listeners will assume you got them from a creditable source. Footnotes are more important for in-depth presentations where you're showing slides or doing writing when you get to the nitty-gritty. For the second meeting, not for the first one. And again, something I wouldn't do in a first pitch is you want always to be absolutely honest and transparent, but if there's a little niggling problem they might bring up, be ready to speak to it, but don't bring it up yourself in the first meeting. This is not dishonesty. It's presenting the most positive face of the truth. When they've developed confidence in you and you're at the second meeting, you can bring up any serious potential difficulties if they haven't asked about them by then. I don't recall hearing any of this from you, but resist the temptation to put others down who've tried things in your field. Some of them or their friends may be in the audience, so don't diss the competition. It's absolutely not cool. And it makes you sound as though you're still on the playground. Also, resist the temptation to dwell too much on any good PR you've received in the media. A brief mention will always add cred, and this is coming from someone who's worked in media, but it doesn't add substance for most investors. If you get mentioned in huddle, it helps, but tangentially, so don't waste precious time in a 2-minute pitch too much on things. Cut your wrong wardrobe. First impressions count. That doesn't mean a suit and tie for everything, especially at your age, but it means tailoring how you present yourself to the audience that you'll be talking to. Cut the word I when you can say we. And unless you truly are a one-person show and you have no support team. But remember, having a good support team is a good selling point. Don't get into really granular details. Put those in a slide or a chart or a handout. People can only absorb so much at one sitting. Don't do any crazy projections, and cut your defensiveness. Don't take anything personally in the audience's questions or responses. I found this one really interesting. How do you ask for something without alienating the audience? So I asked myself, why would a potential investor be alienated or put off by a request for an investment? I think the answer is if you ask too soon or at the wrong time for them. So choose your moment well. Wait till you're fairly certain through multiple interactions that you're going to get a yes. Maybe don't ask the first time, and use your network to find out when that time is, whether it is a good time for that investment fraud. And remember that no isn't always forever. They may not be put off if they say no now. 6 months from now, they may feel differently. But most of all, I think the answer to this question is don't go hat in hand begging. Don't hold yourself or speak as though you're asking them to do you a favor, because you're not. Treat them like peers to whom you're offering an opportunity, and they're more likely to treat you like a peer in return because you are offering them an opportunity. And it's like any situation in life. If you project confidence, people will have more confidence in you. And with this particular trick, there's an upward spiral of impact. The more you show confidence, the more they reflect it back, and the more you will genuinely feel and be confident. Be clear about the next steps. Avoid confusion. That will alienate people and put them off. And give them a clear call to action. And it might well not be invest in me, please. It may be, I'd like to meet with you again when you've had a chance to absorb and consider this pitch and to bring you up to speed on our latest developments and successes at that point. Can I give you a call in 3 weeks' time or whatever your spies have told you would be a good time to ping this particular investor again? I'm the editor of Around the Block, St. John's community newspaper. It's published 6 times annually by the Human Development Council, which is the social planning council for our city. It's concerned largely with issues facing those living in the circumstance of poverty. City of St. John is the principal sponsor. They pay my salary for this part-time job, which I do evenings and weekends and today on my lunch hour. It's been since 2008 the voice of the 5 priority neighborhoods, which is the Lower West Side, the Lower South End, Crescent Valley, the Old North End, and the Waterloo Village. It celebrates their good news, provides information that will assist them, and most recently, since I took over as editor in April 2019, we offer a lot of advocacy. Communities often send in stories that are written by the residents themselves. So that means that, we encourage them to write in their own voices, whatever their literacy level. We have a principle of minimal intrusion on the voice. We want to hear people authentically because this cohort doesn't really have much access to voice what they think and what they feel in other venues. And other articles are submitted by nonprofits who support our community and work with those neighborhoods. They're works of a higher literacy level, so you'll see a mix. What I have on the screen is the COVID-19 special from June, issue 71, which was dedicated to those organizations that work on the front lines. And I encourage you all to read it. You can see the website address sjhdc.ca, which always has the 6 most current issues, and that one's still up there. Through the St. John Community Loan Fund, especially, but we've recently had stories about youth entrepreneurship. So that made me think I'd love to engage any of you in writing about your projects with a focus on how they might help our readership, how they might be of interest to our readership, the social aspect of your social entrepreneurship. The value for you in this is exposure, because remember, you're always building your network, credibility. It's an article for your media file for your company, and in a community-oriented publication, which always looks good. So this went faster than I thought it would. We have a few minutes before I have to run to my next meeting, and I know you guys want time to work in class time. Would you like to share your reactions to what you've learned today, what you found useful? That would help me. That would provide feedback for me if I ever need to do this again. I always want to improve myself. Life is lifelong learning.